first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Amigos, the podcast about everything Amiga. Amigos is a proud member of the Throwback Network, your home for quality retro podcasts. And now, here are your hosts, Aaron Dowdy and John Bodovkar Schaller.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we are going to talk about The Last Ninja Remix. But before we do, we've got a couple little bits of information, some news, some feedback to go over. The first thing is we got a package in the mail. Not really a package as much as a small parcel or envelope. This is from a country called Norge, which I think is Norway because it says Norway on the back. This is from our buddy O'Brien's Retro and Vintage.
Hey.
The giver of many great gifts.
Yes.
In fact, this CD that you can barely see.
And the videotape we'll soon be watching.
Yeah. And all of these things came from O'Brien. So we open this up live on the air for the first time.
We love O'Brien's, by the way.
Smells like Norway in there.
What's Norway smell like? I'm guessing evergreens and whatnot.
Fjords, yep.
What's a fjords?
Yeah.
What do they smell? What do fjords smell like?
Well,
What about Buicks?
all right. So, inside the plastic bag is a piece of tape that's making entry difficult. We have, this is Amiga Future magazine, Indigo, and it's the so we will check this out. This is a full color deal. Looks to be very high quality. Check that out.
Yeah. And it's in English.
Yeah, a plus.
Look at that. Amiga Racer. We just reported on that a couple months ago. Very cool. Thank you, O'Brien's.
Yeah, we've
done it again.
We appreciate it, and we will review that very soon. As soon as we get a chance to digest it. He's also given us a Norwegian music audio CD. This is Deirdre.
Wow.
And this is the Best Med. The DIBESTEMED.
I'd say this is the record label.
Yeah, that's the record label. Well, or that might be the record label. Maybe they're all the record label. And but it looks like a 45. We thank you. And this note that says Norwegian music audio CD.
Beautiful.
Amigos rocks.
We may have to put that up. We may have to play it out on that.
Yeah. Actually, I could pop that in, and actually that would probably crash the system. We may do that on next episode. O'Brien's. This is going to be our play out music next episode. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Up next, we've got Will Williams. Remember Will?
Will, absolutely.
From Colorado. He was on the show a couple months ago.
Via, what was it, New Zealand or Australia or something like that?
Something like that.
He was our deluxe paint.
Right, our deluxe paint guy.
Yeah.
He sent in a picture of his retro corner, and I'll throw that up on the screen there. This is, what do you think about that?
It looks good.
I think it looks stunning. He's got two Amigas set up. Looks like he's got, a more modern system over there with the Team 17 logo on the front there.
Yeah.
He's got a whole, a shelf full of consoles. I see an NES, a Genesis. Looks like maybe a Master System and a C64. So he's ready for retro gaming.
Yeah, my kind of guy.
Yeah, and looks like that's a very nice office with some framed Amiga magazines and prints and things. So very cool, Will. Thank you for sending that in.
I wish I was that organized, eh?
Oh, me too. You don't want to see the rest of this basement. We, as always, if you have an Amigos or an Amiga rig you'd like to send in, just send us a picture at amigospodcast.com and we'll put a little write-up on it. Tell us what you've got and we'll put it up on the site.
Or a little video, anything. I'd love to see that stuff. It's great.
We also got news from Jacob Schmidt. Now, this happened right after we put up our last episode, so I feel like it's a little bit old news if you've been following the site, but if you haven't, we have
this was great,
a Danish listener from Denmark, home of Lego. And he beat Shadow of the Beast and he beat it for the first time. Now, I'd like to believe that he listened to our podcast and was inspired to finally complete it, but it turns out it was really more of a coincidence. But at any rate, we applaud Jacob Schmid because we could not beat Shadow of the Beast.
Even with the cheats on.
Yeah.
So, yes, well done, sir.
Yeah, so I put a link to that on the blog. Check it out. You can watch the whole playthrough on YouTube. Last episode news, it came from the desert. Ultra Magnus TCV tweeted at us. He said he always used to call it came for dessert.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's kind of funny. I Googled that to try and figure out some kind of image to put for this. And guess what I found?
There it is.
It came for dessert.
Very
yeah.
nice.
So this is actually a screen grab from a Space Quest game. Did you ever play any of the Space Quest games?
Yes, on the PC long ago. Yes.
So
I remember this though.
Yeah, that I guess is Ultra Magnus TCV. You're not alone in that pun. And then finally we've got Dar, and Dar wrote in and he said, "You guys have to watch them." And
yes.
He said it's a masterpiece and widely regarded as one of the very best of the 50s sci-fi films. You'll get to see a pre-Gunsmoke James Arness, a post-Miracle on 34th Street Edmund Gwynn, and a freshman Leonard Nimoy in his first role.
Very good. I've never seen them, but it's definitely on my list.
Yeah. So
I love the poster.
I can't believe MST3K. Well, they probably couldn't get the rights to it because it has so many famous people. Right?
Yeah, that one's probably tough.
Yeah.
Plus, that maybe it's better.
It might actually be a good movie, right? We got a little bit of news this week. Two members of the Portuguese forum Retromania.pt, Jose Goncalves and Paulo Sousa, have developed a space-saving low-cost adapter which can connect a USB mouse to an Amiga or Atari ST. So this is a picture of it. And it looks as you'd expect.
Yeah.
This is
simple.
But it's if you're looking to connect either an optical mouse or if you have another mouse that you like to a classic system like an ST or an Amiga, it's pretty cheap. It's $25, and it's a plug and play deal. So go on over to jpretro.blogspot.de. I'll put a link to that on the show notes if you're interested in checking that out.
$25, huh?
Yeah.
Seems a little bit high to me. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, there have been some of those USB converters out there, and they're all about the same price. So I guess maybe that's the equivalent of the parts. But to me, that just seems. I mean, that's a lot of money to spend on a mouse.
It does
mouse
seem
converter.
High. It does seem high, but when you figure that the way the website looked like these guys were putting them together in their basements, and I'm sure
what country did you say they were in?
These guys were in Portugal.
Portugal.
Yeah.
Unusual.
So anyway, check that out.
Everybody's got one of these. Let me know how it works. I've got my tried and true old school Amiga mouse still hooked up.
I think part of the charm of using a piece of vintage hardware is using the vintage mouse along with it.
Well, I mean, yes, to a certain degree. I'm not gonna lie and say I wouldn't like to have a newer mouse, but the old one works good, so I can't complain.
We've also got. Last week we talked about Bedrooms to Billions.
Yes.
The Amiga years. This just came out a couple days ago. Might have even come out yesterday, the 19th. I rented it yesterday.
Oh, did you watch it yet?
And I've watched about half of it.
What'd you think?
I must say it's good. I'm interested to see how they're going to handle the last half of it, because the first half they mostly just kind of set the stage. They go all the way back to Ralph Baer in the brown box.
So way back.
Yeah, and they spend the first, 15 minutes kind of bringing you up to speed with where we were before the launch of the Amiga in terms of video and computer games. And they're right up to the point of the launch right now, and I don't know if they're going to go down the route of talking about the different models of the Amiga and all the financial missteps that Commodore made, or if they're going to start looking at some of the developers and talking to them and getting more into the game side of things.
I know it's about 2.5 hour.
Yeah,
flip,
it's a 2.5 hour film.
You'll have to give us the full report when you finish it up.
Yeah,
and hopefully by then I'll have seen it.
I'm gonna finish it up this weekend. I've got to, because I only got a 48-hour viewing window when I rented this thing.
That's the worst thing. Yeah.
But for $5,
where'd you rent? And you rented it where?
Vimeo.
Okay.
Vimeo, yeah.
So I wonder if it's on any of the major services.
Well, I think it's exclusively through Vimeo if you want to stream it. Okay. But it's $15 to have forever, or it's $5 to rent. And I rarely watch something more than once, so I threw down $5, and it's so far it's been worth it. It's very high quality. The interviews are very well done. I was afraid it was going to rely heavily on archival footage, but they've conducted new interviews with all these guys, and man, even though whenever you read about Amiga, it talks about the financial doom and gloom. The doom and gloom didn't appear to affect any of these engineers and software developers, because it looks like they all have houses in Southern California and they're living a good life.
I'm guessing they went on to do bigger and better things.
Yeah, they probably moved on from the Amiga.
I know they're energetic about the Amiga.
They are.
Everyone you talk to, they're always excited.
They talk about this whiteboard. They talk about the interview, and they had a schematic drawn up on a whiteboard. Every single one of them says, "I walked in and I saw that whiteboard, and I wanted to work, for Amiga." So, it's great. One thing that I thought was pretty cool, they were talking about the things that the Amiga company made before they made the computer. We talked about the when they were High Toro, they made that the
Joy board.
The Joy board. They also made a peripheral that I actually owned.
All right, what was that?
It's called the Power Stick.
Oh, I've seen those, sure.
Yeah.
That was them, huh?
Yeah, that was them. I had no idea. They made the Power Stick, and the Power Stick is a very, very small joystick that fits in the palm of your hand. The height of the joystick is only maybe 2 inches. That maybe just an inch. I mean, it's very, very small.
It was a 2600.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was anything.
I mean, it was a
DB9.
Yeah.
And I remember this very clearly because I bought it in a box of Atari computer stuff at the flea market. I went to the flea market in high school, and they had this box. It was like $20 for everything, and it had some carts and things. And because you never see Atari 8-bit stuff,
Never.
at the flea market.
No.
At our flea market, it's not there.
And Amiga stuff, forget about it.
Yeah.
But Atari stuff either.
And so, I picked all this stuff up, and I was going through it, and I posted some like a haul I was on Usenet at the time. This is probably 98, 97, and somebody was like, "Hey, I'll buy that Power Stick for you for $20." I was like, "Man, $20? That's as much as I paid for the box." So I actually went and I bought I might have had one. Remember those disposable cameras?
Yeah.
So I had one of those. I took a picture of it. I went and took a whole roll of film, got it developed just so I could have a picture to scan to send to the guy.
Times have changed,
so I could, and I still got other pictures from that roll.
Did you complete the deal?
And he sent me a money order, and I sent him the thing.
Now, don't you wish you still had that joystick?
It would be nice to have, but
did you ever play with it?
It worked.
I mean, how'd it feel?
It felt terrible.
Really?
Yeah.
Stiff?
It wasn't. No, it was the opposite of stiff. The stick itself was nice, but it was so small that it wasn't comfortable to hold.
Yeah.
And it had buttons on each side, but the buttons you'd inadvertently press them as you were squeezing this thing to try and get a good grip on it. So now I saw pictures of this thing that plugged into a keypad, almost like a Star Raiders type keypad, and I don't know what that was about. I don't know what the application was for that, but they show in the Bedrooms to Billions thing that they made a version of this that could dock into a keypad.
Wonder why? It must have been one of their wacky. They made a few games. Maybe they made something.
Yeah, it might have been a special, like I said, like the Star Raiders thing for the 2600. That special keyboard
Might
thing.
Look into that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a little bit about the Power Stick. Moving on in the news, the Polish. A big Amiga board, PPA.pl.
All right.
We love these guys because they write about us all the time in Polish. We're going to make them big.
Thank you, guys, by the way.
Polski Portal Amigoi.
Yeah.
Thank you. They are planning their annual Amiga get-together called Amiga or Amiwawa. This is Amiwawa 6. It's going down on June 11th.
Wawa.
Yep. Wawa. Have you ever been to a Wawa?
Not sober.
Well, Wawa is like the Sheetz of Maryland.
You mean like a convenience store?
Yeah. Wawa is like the Sheetz of Maryland in New England.
So how does that translate exactly?
Well, I looked it up because I thought it must mean something,
Yeah.
but I couldn't. Google was no help. So I don't think they're talking about Wawa, the Sheets of New England. But anyway, it's going on, whatever it is, it's going on June 11th in Warsaw. So if you're in the Warsaw area and you want to go to this, I'm going to read a little bit. See, it says this meeting, it says they're going to have Amiga Classic, the Amiga 1, with the latest version of Amiga OS 4, the Pegasus 2 and Max available with the latest version of MorphOS. Remember, MorphOS is the PowerPC Amiga experience.
So they're getting a little bit of everything there.
Yeah, and there's competitions, there's prizes. Admission is free, and all interested are welcome. So I'll throw up a link to that for all of our Polish listeners. I know you're out there, and we appreciate you. Go over to Amiwawa this year and have a ball.
They're so lucky. You guys are lucky to have Amiga get-togethers and stuff. I would love to have something like that.
Yeah, in West Virginia, the Amiga gatherings are few and far between.
I think I currently know in this state maybe 2 other people that have Amiga.
I have a feeling that where we are right now is the largest Amiga gathering in the state, unfortunately. But
we're working on it.
Yeah. AmigaCon West Virginia 2017. Look for it soon.
Right here in the basement, me and you.
Every week. Site updates. We got some site updates this week.
All right, yeah, I've noticed that.
So Dreamcatcher, he's actually done some on-the-ground reporting about the original Ocean building, the building that Ocean Software bought. This is really cool because a lot of times, he'll write stories, or we'll write stories about places, but he's actually there because he lives in Manchester, so he walks by it every day on his way to work.
So he snuck by it.
Yeah. And so check that out to see some pictures. He even braved trespassing laws to get inside, not really inside the building, but inside the grounds. So
he's our man on the street.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dreamcatcher, as usual, on fire. He's
also written a great retrospective on Snow Brothers and how it came to the Amiga. It was going to come, but then it didn't, but then it did.
I've got to tie into that in a moment.
We've also got James Pond on a real Amiga 500. I fired that up on our 500 over here in the basement. Check that out. I had a blast playing James Pond. And finally, we've got some other Amigos Plays videos. We did The Amazing Spider-Man, Batman Returns. Both of those were featuring Chad, our comic book guy. And we also, just yesterday, I threw up a video. I was in,
That must have hurt.
What? Not literally. I was inspired by our buddy Flack. He's got that C64 podcast.
Sprite Castle.
Yeah, Sprite Castle.
Great show.
He reviewed One-on-One, and he mentioned there was an Amiga version.
Yep.
I had no idea there was an Amiga version.
I saw she put that up. What did you think?
And, well, it's great because I love One-on-One. And it's just like the 8-bit version, except it's got better graphics.
Yeah, One-on-One was a great game.
Yeah.
Underrated. I
Absolutely.
mean, back when that came out, everyone loved it.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. Awesome game.
So look for all that stuff. We've got content literally going up every day on the site. Every day there's something new at amigospodcast.com.
Did you mention that? I can't remember last week. Did you guys mention the Maniac Mansion walkthrough? That you guys did?
We did that last week.
Also, Chad, our resident comic book expert, and that was... I finally watched that entire thing. That was an endurance feat for you.
It was. I have a feeling that if we ever review Monkey Island or any of those games, we need to do the same thing.
Oh,
Just man. Out a walkthrough.
Are you kidding me?
Bust right through it.
Wasn't that game like 16 discs or something?
Yeah, it was. It was crazy.
You call me and let me know how that turns out, bud.
Maybe I'll get Chad back here.
Yeah.
I'll bribe him.
Yeah.
So the last thing before we move on to The Last Ninja is we have some new Patreon rewards. As you know, Patreon is what we use to keep this whole enterprise going, and we want to give back to our sponsors. There are a couple things that going forward are kind of little perks if you support the podcast through Patreon. The first is that if you support us at any level, you're going to have access to the full unedited version of the video podcast. So I'm going to just turn on the camera when we set up to record and turn on the mic, and Aaron and I have all kinds of wacky banter about games we're going to review the next week, or other stuff that's going on outside of the Amiga world. Sometimes we'll talk pinball or arcade games. Sometimes we'll talk wrestling. I can't remember what we talked about this time.
Nothing in particular. But I'll tell you one thing. I was surprised when I found out it was being recorded.
I didn't even tell Aaron I was doing it. So anyway, if you support us at any level, you get full access to behind the scenes. And if you support us at $4 a month, then you'll become part of the Amigos game selection community, where every week Aaron and I will nominate 4 games that we think would be good for the show, and you, listeners, will get to vote on them. And so you can shape Amigos history. Yes. And $4 a month is $1 a show. It would be great if you could do that. And if you don't give us any money, we're glad you're listening. But we wanted to throw something out there for the fans that have supported us, all through. It's almost been a whole year since we started this thing.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And And also you kind of give a little carrot to people that might be on the edge. So you can check all of that stuff out at patreon.com/Amigos podcast.
And either way, we appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Aaron, let's talk Last Ninja.
All right, let's talk about Last Ninja.
So Last Ninja, this is not the original Last Ninja. The original Last Ninja didn't come out on the Amiga. It came out where?
C64.
C64, right. I'm going to throw up some Last Ninja footage. I need to stop saying
You
that.
really
That
do.
is that is disgusting. I'm going to put some Last Ninja footage up here, and we're going to play some background music too of this, kind of softly. We're going to try this out and see if it works. Let me just go up here to VLC. There we go. So, what can you tell us about Last Ninja, Aaron?
Well, it was of course, it came out in '90. Again, it originated on the 64. I'm guessing the Amiga version's pretty close to the C64 version. We'll talk about that in a little bit. It came out from an outfit called System 3, and it was developed by an outfit called Eclipse Software Design. Ever heard of them?
I've never heard of them before.
I've not either. I looked over what they'd done, and I had heard of one of their games, which was called Wings of Death.
Ooh.
Now, I don't recall playing it, but I knew of it. So that maybe I saw an ad. They did another game called Monster Business, if you will.
Monster Bisque?
Business. I was saying it Dusty Road style.
Oh, okay.
Monster Business. And then a game called Cardiacs with 2 X's.
Ooh.
So you know it's good.
Yep.
So they didn't do a ton. And then they did The Last Ninja. Well, do you want to go into how these are ordered? It's confusing even to me. We reviewed The Last Ninja Remix, but
The first game that came out for the Amiga was Last Ninja 2.
right.
And so they had Last Ninja 2, and then Last Ninja 3, and then Last Ninja Remix. And then Remix is kind of a mixture of 1 and 2. Is that right?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I played a little bit of Last Ninja 3, and because at the end of this game it tells you to play it. So we know this came out before that, but I know it's now on the C64 it's just called Last Ninja, right? Presumably,
Right, it's just, yeah. And I don't know if Last Ninja Remix made its way to the other platforms or if it was an Amiga exclusive. There's not too much about Last Ninja Remix as such when you go to do research. But there is a lot about Last Ninja, the game itself, because it really, it was unique when it came out. It's still kind of unique now for a variety of reasons, both good and bad. This is, you can't pigeonhole this game. You can't say it's an action game. You can't say it's a puzzle game. You can't say it's a platformer. It's all of those things, and unfortunately, it does all of those things. There are other games that do each of those things better.
Yes, absolutely.
Where this game shines to me is the graphics. Now, I know that you're no big fan of the graphics.
No, I'm not.
And we talked about it on the stream. I kept my opinions to myself.
Oh, you were waiting to throw it down on me, are you? All right, I'm ready to rebuke that. Go
because even though they're a little bit pixely, there's a certain style to the graphics. It appeals to me in the same way that playing a Sierra adventure game appeals to me, where it's like if you look at it from afar, like if you look at it, it looks okay. It's only when you really focus in on the pixels. Now, the water effects, I give it to you. You know, they could have been done better. But overall, the colors, the shading, and everything like that in the backgrounds, I think it looks good. And that's just my opinion.
All right. Well, here's my opinion on the game. This game was an original C64 game. I think it came out in '87 for the C64. I don't think they did much touch up on the Amiga. I can see the appeal to a certain degree. It's colorful. It's got a lot of wide expanses. There's a lot of flourishes in it. The cod jump out of the water. There's mice that run around and whatnot. But and it's just ugly in a lot of ways. I don't think it's that the resolution's low. It looks like it came straight over. Plus, let's throw all that aside. Let's say that it looks great. The border is ridiculous, and I believe this one made Dreamcatch's bordered list from that we reviewed, we mentioned a couple months ago. That's too much. The screen is too small, in my opinion. You had more to work with. I wish they would have used the Amiga to its full extent instead of what I think was a pretty quick port over. The water effects are obviously they're junky. I mean, it hasn't aged well. I guess the best way I want, But I mean, the graphics I can get by more than the actual.
Yeah,
the actual combat.
Yeah,
the graphics.
And
it's not
I'm
the
with
worst
you.
game. This isn't first person pinball or something. This is it looks okay. It's not, but it could look like it doesn't look anywhere near as good as say Lionheart, for example. Go back to that one.
See, I would rather look at this game than look at Lionheart.
No,
I would look at this game all day.
No, you just hate Lionheart.
Lionheart just looks like trash.
Oh.
But given all that, I'm completely with you when it comes to the HUD. There's no excuse for a HUD that takes up, more than a quarter of the screen.
I mean, if you look at the Ninja logo, look right here. See that? The Ninja logo is a quarter of the size of the entire viewable area of the screen.
Very true. Very true.
So that's no good.
Yeah. Now, speaking of combat, the way that combat works in this game is actually a lot like Lionheart. Instead of a normal game where you press a button and you swing your sword or you do something, you actually pressing the button does nothing in this game. You press the button to tell the game that you're ready for action, and then you press the joystick in a certain direction, and the ninja will perform an action that you do not want him to do.
Generally, yeah.
Like
jumping up and doing flips in front of your opponent.
Yes,
while you laugh.
or repeatedly squatting in front of him in a menacing manner.
That makes them even madder.
Yeah, so that we don't like so much. The platforming in this game is just nightmarish because it's hard to get yourself squared up in an isometric environment. I guess we should talk about movement before we talk about platforming. The way the ninja moves is kind of like the way that Qbert moves. You always move at an angle of some kind. But of course your joystick is not set up like a Qbert joystick. It's set up in a normal cross pattern. So what you have to do is if you want to turn around, you can't just push the opposite direction and the ninja won't spin around. The ninja will start walking backwards in the direction that
is
Now, maybe
so frustrating.
In the designer's mind, I'm sure he was thinking, well, yeah, if you're fighting an enemy and you need to back up a little bit, that's how you do it. But in common practice, whenever you want to back up, it's because you want to run away from an enemy because you're getting your butt handed to you.
Yes.
And so it would be so much easier if it worked like that. However, it doesn't work like that. What you have to do is you have to work your way around the edges like you're doing a hurricane kick with Ken or something, where you have to go all the way down and around to get your ninja to turn around so he can beat a hasty retreat or just travel in another direction.
I assume that you could, the bit where your ninja walks backwards, if you had, say, the throwing star, you could kind of walk back and go like that. So I can see there's a strategic element to it. It's not worth it.
No.
That feature alone drove me bananas. Let's see. Let me get through the laundry list. I often backed into combat, number one. Anything on the screen that's in your way, you get hung on. Sometimes you just can't hardly move. It takes forever to get off of it. The combat itself drove me absolutely crazy. I got used to it after a while. It was a lot like Lionheart, but I often jumped when I didn't want to, and it drove me nuts. The bad guys in this, when they, at least at the higher levels, are really tough, and you need pinpoint accuracy with your combat. The jumping, I hated it. I hate lining stuff up. It drove me absolutely crazy.
Because again, if you want to move just a little bit to the left, you can't. You have to move diagonally until you move your ninja to where he's facing the direction that you want him to travel in. Then slowly circle back around so he's facing the river or whatever you're trying to jump across.
Again, we talked about this earlier, but this game sort of reminds me of something like on the Spectrum. The angle, it's everything is slanted, Zaxxon style, and that doesn't work well in this kind of game for me. Now, that said, I'm not going to sit here and kill this game fully because it does a lot of stuff I do like. it's wide. It seems like you're traversing a long distance. It's colorful. It gives you a lot of territory to roam. It's not totally repetitive. You know, it's got I think 6 different levels. They're interesting. They change. The level fully changes every time you get to the next level. So there's a lot of good things going for it. And I could definitely see why it was popular, because it gives you a sense of adventure. You know, you're like you said, it's almost like a role playing game with just you're fighting, which is good. But this sort of style of game was done a lot better on the Amiga. Prince of Persia, for example, is a better platformer, and the sword plays way better in Prince of Persia, for example. Sort of not exactly the same type game, but you know, you can see where I'm going here. There should have been ways, if they'd made the combat, if they'd made it work in some capacity, the game would have been more passable to me. That was the worst. And of course, getting hung on stuff just drove me absolutely insane.
Right. Even if they would have dumbed down the combat a little bit and made it more like a Double Dragon game, it would have made it a lot better, because at least then, you know, so many times you just basically you run into an enemy and you're playing the distance game. If you're at just the right distance, you can easily dispatch a foe. But if you're off by a couple pixels, he'll just destroy you. He'll just come down on you and he won't quit swinging until you're dead.
Yeah, and so, you know, it's a problem. Now, that much said, I know people better than me have done well at the game, and I know it's pretty popular. Again, maybe it just didn't age well. I just couldn't get the controls. I mean, I know we make fun of Lionheart, but the controls on that
they're so much
way better than this, and the controls aren't great.
And I think that it's the developer of this game was trying to create something new. He was trying to put, you know, the kind of beat 'em up kind of atmosphere in an isometric game, and that was the problem. If this would have been a side-scrolling platformer like Prince of Persia, you know, would have been a different deal.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have been as popular.
No,
I mean, because part of the appeal to this is it's definitely new, and it's gutsy. I mean, I'll give them credit. They went in a different direction.
Yeah,
you know, I don't like the music that much either. I'll go there. It you know, sometimes it's tolerable, but often I don't like it. The Amiga's capable.
It definitely. One is repetitive, even though you get a different tune with each stage. The tunes themselves are not great,
and they repeat big time.
Yeah, and two,
especially when you stink.
And two, they could have done more with the quality of the music by utilizing the Amiga instead. This is just another hallmark of a quick port.
Now, that much said, this was sort of when it came out, it was, I don't want to say it was a budget title, but it wasn't a full price title. It was like, I think it was like £25.
I don't know that. Are you sure that wasn't a full price title back then?
I think £25. I mean, I think they had titles that went up to like, say, £40-50.
Okay.
You know, now that was the C64 price, so maybe that was standard. I'm not sure.
Because budget titles for the C64 were like £2.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was not a budget title, but it was not
kind of a mid tier.
Right. Exactly. You know, and again, you're talking about a game that came out in the late '80s. Before it migrated over to the Amiga. So it earned a big following on the 64. I think you told me it was one of the most popular games ever on the C64.
Yeah. It says that it sold in Europe, the sales of the C64 version were in excess of 750,000 units.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
And multi-format sales, you know, take into account all the ports, 2 million. And that was a rare thing. Nowadays, million sellers are no big deal. But back then, especially in the days of the rampant piracy that existed for both the C64 and the Amiga, selling 2 million units is something
that's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Holy smokes! I can't believe it sold that many. You could see the appeal, though. I know when I was younger, I liked a game that let me feel like I was exploring a large world. You know, despite the fact that really this game, if you know what you're doing, you can run through the whole game in 25 minutes. You know, so it's sort of an illusion. I think you mentioned this during the live stream. This open world isn't open.
Right. It looks open. It looks like you can go anywhere, but there are very set, defined paths that you can traverse.
You know, it was actually a 3-disc game, so it's pretty big.
Yeah.
You know, It ran on the OCS, you know,
Yeah.
so there was no
I guess
problems there.
each one of the stages consisted of anywhere between 24 and 27 screens. So, now we were in the dungeons on the live stream,
Yeah.
and some of those 24, I guess the dungeons have 24. Some of those 24 seem to be very repetitive. There wasn't a whole lot of, and I mean, with all these stages, it's really more the they do all kind of look. It's not as if each one of those 27 screens is an entirely different landscape, but it is what it is.
And it was mazy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We should have brought graph paper, eh?
Absolutely. So did you look at eBay and see what this thing was going for?
I did. And hearing you mention that to me is all the more surprising, because I actually looked around even on other formats to see how this thing was going, because this thing's not really out there. I found 2 copies currently available. So if you're in Germany or Greece, that's right, Greece, you can have a go at it. You're looking at somewhere around $80 US shipped. That's a lot. And that's it. And I looked, and the last copy I saw that sold was in April, and it was sold cheap. But I don't think you're going to see another cheap one.
Yeah.
I've got the feeling that the ship has sailed, because these are rare, which is why, where are they?
Right.
Maybe there's a crap load of C64 ones out there, but, and we don't know how well this sold on the Amiga.
Yeah.
So
yeah, my guess is that it did not sell nearly as well on the Amiga as the C64, for both reasons that it was an old game when it was released, and 2, there were not as many Amigas out there as there were C64s.
The weird thing about this game, you talk about an expansive game in the weirdest way. So I made a list of the different systems this series appeared on. All right. So you've got The Last Ninja. All right. It was out in '87. All right. C64 DOS, the Acorn Electron, the BBC Micro. Is the Acorn Electron
That was a different thing.
I don't ever think I've seen that. Have we come across that before?
Acorn was the company that made the BBC Micro.
Well, this was on the, according to this, Acorn Electron.
That might have been.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
The Apple II GS.
Did you mention the Archimedes yet? Tell me.
The Archimedes,
All
yes.
right, good.
And it came. Get this, it came out for the Archimedes in '92.
Wow, late
So
release.
yeah, and the Apple II, and this was on a virtual console. Surprising. So that was just The Last Ninja. Ninja Remix was out on the Amiga and the ST. Okay, that's it. Then you got Last Ninja 2. Now again, I'm not so sure how this series. I'm not so sure how it flowed. All right, so you got Ninja 2. Ninja 2 was on the C64 in '88. Okay, it was on all the things I mentioned before, plus the ZX Spectrum, got a Amstrad CPC. The Amiga got Last Ninja 2, obviously. Now, Last Ninja 2 came out the same year on the Amiga as Ninja Remix. Okay, same with the Atari, same with DOS, and it was on the NES. Did you know that?
It couldn't have come out here.
It did. It was as The Last Ninja. So Last Ninja 2 was out on the NES as The Last Ninja,
Really?
but not Last Ninja 2.
And it had an NTSC USA release.
It doesn't say if
Okay.
it was released in America, but that's something we should look into just
Yeah.
for fun. So then you've got Last Ninja Remix. Okay, this was out in '90. Also came out on the C64, so it's basically the same as the one we just looked at, and the Spectrum and the Amstrad. So the C64 got Last Ninja 2, and Ninja Remix. Then there was a Ninja 3, which I looked at briefly. C64, Amiga, Atari ST, the CD32, all right, which is the version I looked at, and the Commodore, and the Virtual Console. But that's not all. There was a Last Ninja 4 that got canceled. It was cut on C64. So I'm assuming the Last Ninja 3 must have really bombed if
Yeah.
they canceled the fourth one.
Was the third one the one where he was in the city, or was that 2?
I didn't get that far. Then there was Last Ninja on the PC, and then apparently they had attempted to make a PlayStation version, but it didn't get out. But here's the wackiness part. There's a Last Ninja The Return for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and was a GameCube that got canceled. So again, I don't know how those fall into the series either. So that's a lot. That's a long run of consoles. They covered pretty much all their bases on them.
Yeah. Well, I know that looking at the reviews, the first game reviewed very well. and it continues to rate highly. Whenever people rank,
I see it on lists. I see it on lists.
So
it may be one of those you had to been there.
Yeah, I think so. I think that and I don't know. I know we differ about this. I think that the game has a certain graphical appeal. I don't think that the graphics look bad. I think they look kind of cool. And it reminds me of, it's kind of like chiptune music. You can look at chiptune music and say, "Oh, that sounds like it sounds like garbage," but there's an appeal to it that's entirely subjective.
I understand where you're going, but the
ahead.
border is what gets me.
Yeah, the border is inexcusable.
And
I agree.
the fact that they could have done. I mean, again, the graphics. I don't hate the graphics, but they could be a lot better. I don't need, they could be, like I said, there was a few effects that really pissed me off. The fountain in particular and the water, it's just horrible. But again, I could get past all that stuff. The control was good. The control was no good.
Yeah. So anyway,
sorry guys.
That's the last Ninja. It's funny because we're running up here. If you're watching the video, we've got the playthrough that is up here. He is actually in the inner sanctum right now, which we did not see the inner sanctum or the outer sanctum. We saw no sanctum when we were playing. But it's really, I don't know. It's amazing when you watch somebody that knows what they're doing playing this game.
Yeah, because if you want to see people that don't know what they're doing, watch us on a live stream.
Yeah.
We suck.
So anyway, we'd like to thank our sponsors. We got Tom Treff, Jonas Rulo, Colbjorn Barman, Mark McDonald, Adam Bradley, Chris Folds, Will Williams, Daniel Bingston, Zach Zimmerman, O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, Chad Halstead, and Brent Dowdy. Thank you very much for your support.
Absolutely.
And next week, you all have voted, and the votes are in.
The people have spoken.
What
have they done to me?
We are going to play Sensible World of Soccer next week.
A soccer game, you say?
Yeah. So things went so well when we did Kickoff 2 that we're going to do Sensible World of Soccer. It'll be interesting because there are definitely people that are on both sides of that fence. There are Sensi people and there are Kickoff people.
And then there's people like me that don't know jack squat about soccer.
Well, we're going to find out when we review it next week. So until then, adios. Adios.